That is the thing that God wants from us. He wants us to be strong, but soft. And so many of us are not strong, so we're hard. And we shy away from our emotions. We shy away from people who are emotional. We shy away from lots of things. Or we create a tornado of emotions around us because those things keep us safe. And we think they do. And they become our false armor. And God is saying, I want you to feel safe with your emotions. Your emotions were meant for so many great things, not to torture you. Some of you have told me you just want to outrun them. They're so annoying and frustrating and because they're always coming at you. And you've been shamed and attacked and all those kind of things. And we've dealt with those in the weeks past as we've gone through this. And tonight we're going to talk about sharing our emotions. And some of you are like, okay, I'm good here in our little group, right? But out in the big blue world, I start to share my emotions. And so I was going to show this little clip, but I'm not that coordinated technically. But it was so funny. And it was like all the things not to say to young moms. Have you ever done those kind of things? Where she goes like, it's just such a hard day. I know, but one day you're going to miss these years. Well, I'm not missing them right this second. I'm really tired. Well, I promise one day you won't remember being tired. And then she says these things back to you. She's like, I know, but they just keep wrecking my house. It won't even matter. One day it won't matter. You'll miss little handprints everywhere. Remember that, like if you're past that season, if you're in that season, it's not an urban legend. I promise one day there will not be handprints everywhere. Okay, I promise. So, but in the season of those things, you don't need somebody to fix you. You need somebody to say, yeah. You remember. And so, but what do? We want to hurry up and slap a happy face on it, tell you how lucky you are and find the silver lining for you. And so what do they feel? They feel just unseen and uncared for and unloved. And we can do better. Because when we need that, we need to be able to give it. And one of the things that we really need is we have a very hurting and lost world that needs to know that they are seen and understood and loved. And so when we become safe to share our emotions, then people are safe to share their emotions with us, right? And then we're out somewhere and you'll be surprised at things that happen. Crazy things happen. When you begin to become strong on the inside, you become very soft on the inside. It's the strangest thing, isn't it? Such an opposite effect. You don't become like unemotional, you become sometimes more emotional, I have found. And then when they come at you as all the crazy, then they do. You do too. Come on, let's be real. You're not going to take it as personal. You're not. And if you do, you'll have that moment. And I love it when people finally get a revelation for why emotions matter, because I make people do a lot of emotion work, so you're welcome. They hate it, just like you do, but they hate it more because I make them do hard stuff. And they're like, why is this so hard? Because, if it's easy and if it feels familiar, you probably don't need me. But they do emotion work and they have to sit there and they have to share their emotions. And they're like, what is this doing? And because it's usually couples or people and, those kind of things. And they come back at me and they come after me for it. I understand that because we feel uncomfortable. We attack people. That's what we do. Some of y'all shut down. We all have different responses. And then one day, the light bulb goes off. And they realize that when they learn to understand their emotions and share them, then they're no longer reacting out of something they don't understand. Well, now who's stronger? Right? Right? Anybody ever felt like really, really, like you walk into a room, you feel really embarrassed and shamed, and you lashed out in anger? You don't have to confess that. We're not going to have you stand until that time. Please share your most embarrassing memory. No, I don't think so. So, but what I'm saying? Like you've ever done things, like especially you see a kid acting out, but we do it too. Or you walk in and I can't tell you how many times I've had somebody tell me, I didn't come because I was, and really they felt they were going to be alone. They had this whole thought in their head, and none of that was true. And I thought, if they could have called somebody and said, I don't want to go to this whatever because I'm afraid that you share the thing. And the person said, yeah, I get that. It's hard sometimes to walk in alone, but, I'll be there. We're going to be okay. What can we do? God's doing something in us. He's reworking us. He's changing us. And what I love is I'm hearing people who are saying they were uncomfortable with their emotions and they're like, what is happening? You wrecked me. I can't stop crying when I'm praying. I'm like, yay, because God's emotional. He's emotional for you. He's so emotional for you. It says he rejoices over you with singing. He's not dead. He rejoices over you with singing. God is in a great mood for you. He's really excited to see what you're going to do today. He grieves when you go home to heaven. I'm like, how is that possible? You mean when I go closer to you, you grieve? And you know what he finally showed me one day? I don't get to watch you on the earth do the things. I don't get to watch it anymore. He delights in what you're doing here. He delights in it. And so he's a God who's feeling all the things. He's excited for you. He's jealous for you. He's so jealous of your time and attention. You know that? He's jealous for you. He's passionate for you. He's excited about hearing from you. So throwing all that out there because emotions, for some reason, they've got a really bad rap. But we're here to change that. So expecting lots of crying. Feel free to wail at the altar. No, people will think you're normal. Okay? So we're going to do a little Mad Lib, okay, before we go to our groups and before we listen to, I'm going to pass it out because I'm trying to decide. I think it'd be easier. Let's do that now because she doesn't talk about it in the video. So we'll give us a few minutes. So if we can just, I don't know how we do this. Somebody help me. Yeah, you just want to pass some, and then we'll pass some. Y'all going to have to bring your own pens. I'm sorry. You have to come equipped. So y'all want to share those, and then here. Do y'all mind running a couple back there? A couple of whatever, however we need. We might need some more back there. Okay. Now, I'm just going to tell you up front. Okay, because I've had some people come after me. It's fine. I'm fine with it. I do have some more here. How many more do you need? Do you need more than that? Okay. If we need more than that, I may have to have somebody run make some copies. So, now, ladies, a couple of key things. I've had people tell me they don't want to share because they think, I don't know why you think this, but I'm going to tell you right now. You don't have to share the most difficult thing you went through in your entire life for this week, okay? You're allowed to choose something of a lesser nature if you're more comfortable with that. All right, so when it says the very first one, the biggest emotion I felt this week was, you fill in the blank. Nobody knows what you did this week, okay? We're not going to judge you. We're not going to go like, really? That's the biggest emotion you felt this week? Hey, by the way, it could be a good one. You're allowed to, anger's a good one. But you could also have, all the emotions are good, okay? Go see Inside Out 2. Okay, that's your homework. That's really great. But but you might have had joy, remember? The biggest emotion I felt this week was, then it's going to say the reason I felt, y'all have done Mad Libs, right? Y'all go for it. Okay. You're going to need this when you get to group, so if you're wondering if this is optional, they're all going to look at you. Oh, you can have another, you can take this one. You don't need it? Oh, I might need it, yeah. It's right here. Mm-hmm. If you have your workbook and you want to put it in there, it's on page 116. Okay, how we doing? Okay. How are we doing? Don't feel rushed. You can put a hand up if you're done. Are you good? What is it? Does it change? Like the biggest emotion I felt this week was, I think somebody said anger. Yeah, you just follow it. I wanted to blank the feeling. Like I remember first feeling this. When it says, I remember first feeling, that emotion should probably match the biggest emotion I felt this week. Okay. So if you said, let's say you said anger, maybe the first time you remember feeling angry in the same way. Anger is much more complex than just anger, but we're going to keep it simple tonight. Was when I was something. Yeah, you can just do this week. Unless something's coming to your mind that God wants you to deal with. There's no one's going to grade this. And you don't have to put it on your refrigerator when you get home. I promise. You don't have to put your name on it. Yeah. But I really encourage you to save this formula. And I'm going to tell you why really quick. So we often have you ever had you overreacted to something? Anybody here ever overreacted? And you're like, that really merited like a 2, and it got like a 27.5, I've actually left the earth for a moment. There's something happened here. And then you kind of they're all like, wow, that seemed like a lot. Like, what was that about? And you're like, I don't know, when you start blaming everybody in the room and, then you crucify. People are dying everywhere around you, It's terrible. It's a scene now. And now you got to leave because now you got to drag out the shame along with whatever it is else you brought in there. Okay, so I'm going to save you a second. I can't promise that you will not do that again, but I will tell you this. If you will take a minute, hopefully you'll learn to do this before you blow up the entire room, but if you do, I want you to drag yourself into your quiet place while they're all recovering. Give them a second. And I want you to ask yourself, I want you to walk through this exercise. I want you to take a minute and say, okay, came out as anger, but what did I really feel in that room? That came out as anger, but I really felt what? Maybe you just felt lonely. Maybe you felt disrespected. Maybe you felt scared. Maybe you felt abandoned. I don't know what you felt, but I want you to take a minute until you figure that out. You know who's really good at telling you what that is? The Holy Spirit. Okay? I want you to keep this template, especially if you struggle with your emotions. Okay, and it doesn't mean if you're like, I don't do that. I don't blow up at people, but you blow up on the inside. Okay, you don't sleep for 3 days or whatever. And I want you to ask yourself, and the Holy Spirit will help you, when was the first time I felt that way? She gave us that example in one of the other videos. So if this is your first night, but now you have a template to work with. And then you're going to be able to minister to that hurt as an adult that you never got. Maybe nobody touched when you were little. And everybody thinks I'm crazy, but I promise you, the next time you experience that emotion, you won't be off the Richter scale. You just won't, because you'll touch that. If you get lost in it, call somebody. Let them walk through it with you. Somebody's safe. We're going to talk about those safe people. Okay. So she's going to talk about some safe people. We're becoming safe people. Everybody in this room, we're pre-qualifying. They've gone through the class. Now they're going to become safe. So y'all ready? Y'all ready? Let's roll the video.
A few years ago, one of my friends invited me to be part of a little cohort of leaders, and it was so that we wouldn't feel so alone. And so we came together, we kicked it off with a 3-day retreat, and she invited an amazing psychologist to come and join us, our therapist, Dr. C, and he led some incredible conversations. And honestly, I came into this pretty exhausted. I had a lot of angst I had been struggling with for, I don't know, months, even years. Our ministry was growing, and it should have felt like the greatest joy of my life, and yet I was really close to burning out. And the pressure from life and and kids and work and everything. I was just drowning in it. And I knew I needed people who understood. And so I agreed, let's go. And honestly, when I walked in, I was hoping people would fix me. And so we get there, and I respect these women so much. These are women that I've admired for years, and I know really well, a lot of them. And we were supposed to talk about our feelings and our burdens. And Dr. C was gonna lead us through these sessions where we would talk about what we were feeling. Now, as I've told you, this has been always awkward for me, and I'm not really good at it. In fact, I'm the girl who, when my counselor looks at me and says, "What are you feeling?" every single time I feel like I'm gonna lose some game that we're playing because I don't know how to play. I don't know the rules. I'm not good at this. And so this time I came in and I was like, I'm gonna kill this thing. I'm gonna share it all. I'm gonna tell everybody all this angst that I've been feeling, and I'm gonna let it all out. And I did. I let loose. And I shared my hurt and rejection and disappointment. And I talked about some really raw feelings about how I felt toward God even, that I felt used and I felt like he was distant. And I cried and I clenched my fists and I did it. And I shared my guts out. I said I was mad. I said I was even mad at God. Oh my gosh, can you believe I said that? I feel like he had called me so far out on the ocean of risk, and there were times it just felt like he was abandoning me, and I was tired of the pressure. Got it all out, bawling. I just said words like, I hate that I'm so tired, I'm so worn out, I'm so frustrated, I'm so angry, I'm so sad, and I felt used by God. So eventually, someone spoke up and said this. They said, well, Jenny, God isn't like that. It's not true, Jenny, you're hurting, but it just isn't true. And then someone else said, God would never do that to you. God would never leave you. And guys, my anger that I was feeling in that moment, the hurt I was feeling, all of a sudden it turned to rage. How could they immediately come back and defend God? I felt like I was being vulnerable. I felt like I was playing by the rules. I felt like I had just uncomfortably shared my soul and the very depths of it and the things I was scared to say out loud, even to myself, and I shared it with them, and I felt judged and I felt misunderstood. And I thought I'd shown up and done the assignment right. And Dr. C saw my eyes and he said, Jenny, how do you feel about what everyone is sharing with you right now? And at that moment, I had a choice. I could be cool and try to play along and agree with everybody. Because yes, of course, God hasn't abandoned me. Of course, that's true. Of course, the things they were saying to me were true. But I didn't go that direction. I was honest. I told them exactly how I felt. I took an awkward, silent pause, and then I let it rip. And I told them honestly, I said I was ticked. I said I just shared all that, and I wanted them to be proud of me for persevering. I wanted them to share my hurts with me. I wanted them to be sad with me. I wanted them to understand that I still love God. I wasn't leaving my faith. I just was struggling. And so I said all that. It was scary, y'all. I mean, it was scary. But there it was. I got it all out. So they started scrambling. And someone spoke up and said, I feel sad that you feel misunderstood by us. I really am. I'm sad that you feel judged and shamed. Other people echoed the same thought. And those simple words, I feel sad with you. I feel sad that you feel misunderstood. I know right now you're hearing this story and you're thinking to yourself, I don't know that that would help that much. But when you're in that moment and you feel misunderstood and someone's just sad with you, it heals something in you. It changes something in you. All of a sudden, I wasn't mad anymore. In fact, I felt closer to them than I had before. It's like we had gotten in a little fight and we survived and we made it. I felt seen. I felt comforted. I went from angry and feeling misunderstood to feeling deeply cared about by women in the room that had hurt me just a few minutes before that. And the crazy thing is, saying that I was mad at God, I didn't feel so mad at God anymore. Isn't that funny? I said it out loud. I felt understood. I felt comforted, and all of a sudden I wasn't so mad. Later, Dr. C reminded us that our tendency is always gonna be to fix each other because we're problem solvers. That's what we do. We try to fix it. We don't wanna feel it. We try to fix it. So we set some new ground rules right then and there, our little cohort. We would listen intently. We would listen fully. We would only respond with words, I feel, rather than I think. That was going to be hard, turns out. And I'd shown up there thinking that I needed to be fixed and I wanted to help fix other people. So it was a complete shift in the way that I was thinking. But when I felt in the room what that was like to just have people mourn with me, to feel with me what I was feeling, it changed everything. I wanted that experience, and I also wanted to give it away. I didn't want to skip the quiet moments of feeling with each other because it had brought healing. It had changed me. Nothing else had set me free for months or years that I had felt angsty. All of a sudden, I felt a freedom in my soul that I hadn't felt in so long. And it was all because I was honest, and I shared it with the people that I felt safe with, and they didn't even respond rightly, but then they did. And I felt safe again. And something healed, and something changed. Working on this project, I mean, this is where it came from. It was from this whole shift in my mentality of not being afraid of what I feel, not afraid to feel it, not afraid to take it to God, and not afraid to take it to my people. And now, today, I'm a feeler. And I don't try to fix everybody that comes along, though I do still try to do that every once in a while. But I'm at home. I'm more at home in my soul. And I'm more at home in other people's pain. I'm more at home in other people's suffering. And I want this for you too. To stop coping, controlling, and concealing it all, and to see that the best parts of life happen when we show up vulnerably and bravely, and we start to untangle the knot. And guys, we can't do that alone. We need God, and we need our people. And so the next step of this process is we're gonna share it. I know, this feels like every step has been scary, but this might feel like the scariest part, right? Because we've judged ourselves for so long that now we assume that when we share it, we're gonna be judged by other people. So we notice it, we name it, we feel it, and then we share it with actual words from our actual mouths into the actual ears of real life people that we love. And it can be risky, and it can go badly sometimes. And then you share that it went badly and that you need something different. I want this for you. I want you to get to quit coping and controlling and concealing. And I want you to see that the best parts of life begin to show up when you actually vulnerably feel it and you share it. And it won't go perfectly. In fact, you gotta find your safe people. And I know that's a process and a journey. And I have grace for that, but you gotta do it. We all need connection in our life. We cannot do this alone. And those safe people are gonna mess up sometimes. And this is where God comes in. See, God made us for connection with each other, but he also made us for connection with him. We were built to be in loving relationship with God and with each other. When God created all the people on the earth, he imagined us walking and talking with him and walking and talking with each other through this whole life. He wanted a relationship with us, and he wanted us to have a relationship with each other. And just like he was in relationship with himself, Father, Spirit, Son, he saw man, and what did he say? He said, it is not good for him to be alone. So he gave us each other so we could walk through all of life together, through all our emotions together, through sadnesses, through anger, through fear. He built us to walk through all of those things together in community. And then sin came in and it all broke. But his plan would still be accomplished. His plan never changed. Jesus came to reconcile us back to God and back to each other. So even though it was all broken, he made a way of reconciliation. And yet here we are still acting like we don't need God and we don't need each other. It's just not true. And our feelings are telling us that. Our body is telling us that. When we hide everything inside and anxiety grows, it's because we're trying to do it alone. In John 11, we see one of the most emotional moments in Jesus' life. This was after the death of his good friend Lazarus. It was days after his friend had died, and Jesus arrives in the home of Lazarus. And Lazarus' two sisters are there, his good friends as well, Martha and Mary. Martha, she's angry. She runs outside because she had sent word for Jesus to come, and he didn't come. He waited a few days, and then Lazarus dies. And she says, if you would have been here, he wouldn't have died. She's angry, and she's letting him have it. Can you imagine letting Jesus just have it like that? And I relate to this feeling. How many times have you been angry at God but scared to say so? It took everything to tell the truth about my hard feelings that day, that I was mad at God. But Jesus didn't shame her in this moment. He comforted her. He said, I am the resurrection and the life. He gave her hope. Why this death was not be the end. The one who believes in me will live even though he may die, and whoever lives by believing in me will never die. He gives her hope. He comforts her with the hope that he's the only one that could give. He can overcome death. And he comes to Mary, the other sister of Lazarus, and she falls at his feet and she's weeping. And the scripture named that he was deeply moved by her. He was moved by her tears. Now, some of you know the end of the story. Lazarus is going to come back to life in just a few minutes. And yet Jesus wasn't afraid to grieve with her. He knew he was going to actually fix the problem. Not many people can do that, but he was. And yet Mary was worth his time to stop and weep with. And then you see the shortest verse in the Bible, and Jesus wept with Mary. Now, the one who had all the power to show up and fix it, felt it with Mary. He felt it. Why? Why would Jesus show up and weep with his friend? Why didn't he just say, hey, I'm going to heal him. Don't worry, it's about to be over. Because he knew there was something about that moment with Mary that he did not want to miss. His friend was crying. His friend was hurting. And it made Jesus hurt with her. Y'all, I believe he was deeply moved. I believe, because scripture says it, he was moved to tears. But I also believe he was modeling for us the way we show up for people. Now, if you've ever felt grief like Mary's, you know there's nothing to say. There's nothing people can do. You only want people around you who are going to feel the pain with you. It's the only comfort that you can imagine having in that moment when the worst happens. Something about those who mourn with you, it helps when nothing else can help. And Jesus knew it. I remember recently, all the research I did for this, over and over again, probably hundreds of times, it was said that when you deeply feel felt by someone in your pain, your neurons, your brain begins to heal. And then I ran across this video that showed these neurons reattaching, like finding each other again. And it felt so miraculous. They were working so hard to get to each other. It was so awkward. And you sit there and watch it, you can't even believe it's happening. The way God built us is when we mourn with those who mourn, our brain actually heals. Neurons reconnect, and places that feel broken inside of us begin to shore up and heal. It is how we were built. Sharing our story in safe and connected relationships, it changes everything. It even changes our brain and the way that it has suffered because of the brokenness of this world. I want this for you. I want you to get to quit coping and controlling and concealing. And I want you to see that the best parts of life begin to show up when you actually vulnerably feel it and you share it. When you feel something with someone, when they feel understood by you, when they feel safe with you, something about them heals. Something about you heals. So the awkward journey of finding our way to each other, to reconnecting the broken parts of our lives, to healing the places where we have been alone in our pain, in our grief, in our sadness, in our fear. When we say those things out loud, I feel afraid. I feel worried. I feel desperate. People can move into that. God moves into that. I want to read to you how this story ends. After he was moved and troubled and weeping and mourning with Mary, he said, "Where have you laid Lazarus?" And they said to him, "Lord, come and see." Jesus wept. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind man also have kept this man from dying?" This was out of their paradigm. They couldn't imagine that now he was dead, he could be raised from the dead. There was no category for it. And he says this, Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." And then Lazarus came out and walked out. Jesus said, "Thanks for hearing me. Dad, thanks for hearing me. I know you always hear me, but I want everybody here to know that you hear them. I want everybody to know that they can have a relationship with you." All of this was so that we would know there was no separation between us and God, that we don't have to do this alone, that we don't cry alone, that we don't feel scared alone, that we don't feel angry alone. We get God. And as we are going together with God and with each other, y'all, lives change. Lives change. People get free. People are healed. People from the inside out. Legacies, generations of families, brokenness, it changes. Why? Because God is in the business of that. But you'll never know if you hide it all inside. You'll never know until you share it with God, until you share it with people. It's brave, it's risky, it's the best decision you will ever make.
Okay, now I can come up. All right. So I did watch the video ahead of time. Sorry, because I didn't. What do you think about that, huh? You're actually going to heal somebody when you just sit with them and cry, or when you rejoice with them, when they rejoice. Yeah. But we rush, don't we? We rush to fix it. And we call it a fixing reflex. We all have it. We can't help it. We want to make it better. We want to make it better. And what you don't know is that you're making it better. You're making it better because you just sat with them. You know, tears are so healing. So with that, I do want to tell you, because you're going to get the rest of the time to share. When you do find some people that you have, maybe you have some close friends and you know you can share your feelings with, but because some of them, they got some fixing in them, okay? You know you've had fixing in you too. You can preempt them, and this is one of the little things right here, and I just want to share this with you. You can say things like, I really want to share something with you. I want to tell you something, but I'm worried that you're going to try to fix me, and I need you to just hear me. So just, you can prep the conversation. Because some of you are going like, well, the first time I went out and I share my feelings, and then I get this whole backlash of fixing. So just preempt the conversation. Tell them what you need up front. I'm going to share something with you, and I would love to know how it makes you feel when I share it with you. Like you really want to know their feelings. That's fair. Sometimes you're afraid you're going to be judged, but that's okay. You're not going to be judged. You could say, I'm trying to learn to stop judging my feelings, and can you just help me out as I learn to feel them honestly first and only do something about them after I can do that. Okay, so just let them know you got this. I just need to be able to be honest with you. So you got some people in your life that you can share with. Don't be afraid to say hey, here's what I really need. I need you just to hear me. I'm going to need you to just hear my emotions. I don't need you to fix my problem. Right? Most of the time they can't do that anyway. Okay? Unless they have $1 million or something and chocolate and we all get to go to California with her, okay? But I'm just saying, but in case there's not those solutions, you tell them, you don't got nothing for me, okay? So, all right.